Hey everyone, this is Zach Weiss from Worn & Wound. I'm here at Watches and Wonders 2022, and I'm just in front of the Montblanc booth, and I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple of the watches that they released this year. They have a lot of releases, but only got time for 2 right now. Before I get into it though, if you like this video, you find it entertaining or anything like that, please like and subscribe. It goes a long way. So Montblanc actually had a really awesome year. Like I said, there's many releases under the 1858 Heritage line, but there were some real standouts. So they've launched a new line of dive watches called the 1858 Iced Sea automatic dive watches. These are 41 millimeter ISO certified dive watches, priced around $3,000. There's a strap and a bracelet option, but what really makes them stand out is the dial. These are dials that are inspired by the Mer de Glace, which I hope I pronounced correctly, which is a large glacier in the Mont Blanc region, and in fact I think it's the largest glacier in France. They were inspired by the look and texture of ice as well as the colors of ice, and they created a really unique dial sort of method of creating a textured icy dial that is extremely effective and interesting looking in person. So it's a 30-step process to make this dial, and what it is not a texture, but rather it's a layering of different sort of fractured looks and textures themselves, but it doesn't look rough at all. And when you get is a dial with a lot of depth and what appears to be kind of layers of things on top of one another, it's really quite beautiful, quite striking, and it's impressively also not a limited edition. This is an open edition watch, and it comes in 3 different colors. There's black, and a really vivid blue, and a really vivid green. Green in particular really stood out to me, just a truly beautiful color, as well as really showed off that interesting texture that they had going for it. Next up is the 1858 Geosphere Chronograph Zero Oxygen. So you might be familiar with the 1858 Geosphere series. This is a time-only watch in the past that featured 2 globes on the dial, one for the northern hemisphere, one for the southern hemisphere, from which you could essentially tell the time around the world, as well as where day and night was based on the various continents, obviously inspired by exploration, which is at the root of the 1858 series in general. For this year, they have added a chronograph complication to that, so it's a whole new movement that does the Geosphere, what I just said that the other watches do, but then has chronograph functionality built into it as well. To take it a step further, for this limited edition, they sucked all the oxygen out of the movement and replaced it with nitrogen. And so what that does is, by removing oxygen, it removes what would fog when you go to high altitudes. It also helps preserve the movement because oxygen leads to oxidization. In order to test this, they're strapping to the wrist of a well-known mountaineer. He's going to climb all the way to the top of Mount Everest without any supplemental oxygen, which is a absolutely insane feat. It's going to be wearing the watch to test it out. That's kind of them showing off their, technical chops with this new watch. And that surprisingly actually comes in around $8,000, which, given what it's doing, is actually pretty impressive. Lastly, and I know I said only 2, there is also a new GMT that shares a lot of visual similarity to the Ice Sea divers. It doesn't have the glacier dial, but what they did was they actually removed the GMT hand, instead used a disc that shows the 24-hour time around the edge of the dial in blocks that are seen through an aperture. And in one extra little cool detail there, they use full blocks and then half blocks, so at a glance you can kind of see whether it's, let's say, 10 or 10:30, and then 11, 11:30. It's a nice little way of kind of like giving you at a glance sort of sense of the time with more of a ballpark kind of way, and then you could always look at the minute hand to know the exact minute at that other location. So once again, that is Montblanc at Watches and Wonders 2022. Thanks for watching.